Gun Owners Radio. Welcome, everybody. We make activism easy. Thank you so much for joining us. And, man, you picked a good show to watch. I think we have a really cool show today. We have a couple of great guests. We have some good news and good information. So do us a favor. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, do all the stuff that you need to do. This helps us find even more people who are passionate about the Second Amendment and get them involved. So that's all you got to do. Subscribe to our channel, like, and put a little comment down in the comment section, and then share it on your social media. And don't forget to go to our website and sign up for our email too. But most important, tell your friends. Don't keep us a secret.
All right, Gunners Radio is now broadcasting from our new home at Discount Gun Mart, DGM. Check out DGM in San Diego on Marina Boulevard, as well as out in Santee by Gillespie Field off the 67. Look up discountgunmart.com for more info.
There you go. All right. It's time. What's the time for?
It's now time for that gun truth of the week.
Gun truth of the week. Okay, this week's gun truth is a small town in Georgia called Kennesaw passed a law back in 1982. The law required that
It was a good year.
It was a good year. Is that the right year? Someone might need to correct me on that. A small town in Georgia called Kennesaw passed a law. The law required that every household own and keep at least one gun in their household. It only took 7 months for the residential burglary rate to drop by 89%. This was reported by a lot of places, but specifically it was reported by Gary Kleck from FSU in his piece called Crime Control Through the Private Use of Armed Force, which was published in February of 1998. Congratulations to Kennesaw. Sounds like it's the safest place on earth, thanks to the Second Amendment. That's your gun truth of the week. Okay, Q&A time. You have Q's, I have A's. So we're going to do our best. If you write us a question, something you want to know, whether it's something about the laws or restrictions or Second Amendment or whatever, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer these questions. I get questions all week, and I like to make sure that I answer them in a way that everybody can understand, and I get it out to as many people as possible. So somebody wrote, I caught a felony 20 years ago and can't get a gun. What can I do? It's a good question. Not enough information for me to give a very specific answer, number one. Number two, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. Anything, legal needs to go through a properly licensed attorney, et cetera, et cetera. It's a bummer because basically this person's saying that, hey, 20 years ago, and they didn't specify what the felony was, but it was probably a nonviolent felony. It was probably maybe a drug charge or something like that. Sometimes people are charged with a felony and it's not even illegal anymore and they lose their gun rights. So I got to tell you, let me know what you think about this. Put this in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube, because I'm really curious to hear what people think about this. But right now, if you're either a felon or you're not. And if you're a felon, you're a prohibited person. And there are really very few ways to become a prohibited person beyond being a felony. Like if you are dishonorably discharged from the military, you are a prohibited person, which means you can't own a firearm. But for the most part, the only real way to become, the most common way for sure to become a prohibited person, someone that can't own a gun, is to be a felon. But not all felonies are created equal. There are violent felonies, there are nonviolent felonies. There's all kinds of different ways to become a felon. And I'm curious, do you think that someone who is convicted of a nonviolent felony, they extorted money or some kind of white collar crime or something like that, and they served their time, et cetera, they're out on after they've served their time, they've proven to be a good person since, but they still have this nonviolent felony on their record. Do you think that person should still be a prohibited person? I don't know if I think that they should. What do you think, Alicia? Do you think a nonviolent felon, should they be able to own a gun?
I think it's definitely a topic that should be revisited. I mean, I can't personally say that I think it should be blanket nonviolent. You should be allowed. Because I think, and I would imagine that part of the argument is going to be that if you commit a crime to that level, shows poor judgment on your part.
Truly, I think you're right. But I can't tell you how many people I've run into who, sold some pot in 1982.
Right.
And it's like, now we look at that like, sold some pot. I mean,
Right.
there are pot dispensaries all over the place now.
They were just ahead of their time.
They're just ahead of their time, right? So to that person, here's the thing.
Right.
I have no fear of someone who sold some pot in 1982, having a gun. They shouldn't lose their right to keep and bear arms. They shouldn't lose their right to self-defense. I tend to think that, but I can be convinced, it's not just a right, it's a responsibility. So if somebody abuses that, I get it. But for the most part, I think once you served your time and you've proven you're a stand-up person, and maybe you made a mistake, but
You can earn it back.
Now you're on the other side.
I agree with that.
Anyway, if you are a felon, that's not this person's question. Went on a little tangent there. If you are a felon, and for whatever it is, and however long ago it was, what you need to do is you need to go talk to an attorney and see what can be done. I'm not an expert, but I know there are ways there are things that can be done so that you are no longer a prohibited person if you have a felony on your record. No guarantees. I don't know much more than that. But call an attorney. We talk about some of the attorneys that you can call.
John Dillon.
John Dillon, sponsor of the show. Fantastic guy. Check him out. I know he's dealt with stuff like this before, so that's what you should do. But make sure you get the right attorney. Attorney. It's kind of like a doctor. You don't want a podiatrist, doing your brain surgery, right? I mean, they both went to medical school. They're both smart and respectable people, but you want to make sure that you have an attorney who's experienced with firearms and is experienced with, people that are trying to get rid of a felony, I guess.
So my neighbor who's a divorce attorney is going to give me a good deal. Isn't probably the way to go?
Correct. That's probably not. I mean, probably not. But you know what? The guy that you go to talk about your felony, you don't want him handling your divorce.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Very
so
true.
it's not, they just have specialties, all it is. Okay. Next question. When will President Trump do away with red flag laws? Well, that's a good question. I got to tell you, red flag laws, that is the term that encompasses a number of different proposals. The only red flag law that really we're familiar with that's really come to pass are gun violence restraining orders. And a gun violence restraining order has such a low bar. Basically, just about anybody can accuse just about anybody else of something with very little to no proof or evidence. And that person could lose, the person being accused could lose their gun rights. I've seen all kinds of horrible things. I've seen coworkers accuse, other coworkers that they don't like, and they lost their gun rights. I've seen roommates accuse each other, and one of them loses their gun rights. I've seen all kinds of really horrible abuses of gun violence restraining orders. There are not enough protections for gun owners with these gun violence restraining orders. It is, if not the biggest threat to your Second Amendment rights right now, it is right up there. It's really, really bad what these gun violence restraining orders are doing. And to make it even more confusing, sometimes, I'd go out on a limb and say most of the time, they're using gun violence restraining orders against people who, they could have taken their guns already. So it's hard. So you say, hey, these gun violence restraining orders are being abused. And they'll point to one of the cases where it's like, yeah, well, that person, already broke the law. Of course, they're going to lose their Second Amendment rights, while they go through the process. But we're not talking about the 80 or 90% of people who are actually breaking the law and will lose their gun rights anyway, with or without a gun violence restraining order. We're talking about the 5 or even 10% of gun violence restraining orders where they're just absolutely abusing it. This is to get rid of these gun violence restraining orders, or at the very least, limit them so that there are more protections for gun owners. What needs to be done is outside of the scope of the President of the United States. I don't know exactly how much he can do, but he can't wave a magic wand and make it all go away. So that being said, we're actually going to talk about some of the things that he has done to help improve some things. And there might be some overlap there, but really what needs to happen is this needs to go through the legislature, Congress or Sacramento or whatever state you live in, they need to undo what's been done and or put in protections for gun owners so that these things aren't so abused, which they are currently. I'm just not a fan. I went into these gun violence restraining orders with an open mind, and I talked to people who were implementing them, and they're bad news. They're truly bad news. There's nothing good about them. My question to so many people who are fans of implementing these gun violence restraining orders is, hey, if they're breaking the law, we can already take their guns. You go rob a bank, you murder somebody. When they arrest you, they're going to take your guns. So if you're breaking the law, we can already take your guns. If you're not breaking the law, then why are we taking away your Second Amendment rights? Why are we taking your guns away? And it really, truly, it was like a deer in headlights every time I asked that question. So we want to get rid of them. But like I said, it's outside of the scope of the president. Good questions, even better answers. If you have any questions, put them in the chat under the, in the comment section of the YouTube, or email us, or Instagram message us, or Facebook message us. There's a ton of different ways, smoke signals, whatever it takes, but get us the questions. So there you go. Let's do our legislative and legal update.
All right. So this segment is the time for our legal and legislative discussion, where we tell you what you need to know from the courts and from the legislators. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, and neither is Mike. We are not here to give you legal advice, and all legal advice should come from a properly licensed California lawyer. Our sponsor, John Dillon, is a lawyer. John has been helping more and more people to fight those GVROs, and those are gun violence restraining orders. If you know somebody that's had their self-defense rights taken away without due process, give John a call. His website is dillonlawgp.com, and his phone number is 760-642-7150.
Okay, first one's a quick update. Are your assault weapon bans a thing of the past? And if you aren't watching, I should do the air quotes, assault weapon bans. Are they a thing of the past? These assault weapon bans are little more than firearm bans. When you talk about firearm bans, the anti-gun side says, well, no, it's not a ban. You can still buy, XYZ gun. Just because it is a ban of a subset of the total doesn't mean it's not a ban. And an assault weapon ban is still a gun ban. So are they a thing of the past? Is the Supreme Court going to come in and save us all? Well, there's a little bit of an update, and I don't want to mislead you. No one really, really knows exactly what's going on, but we know what hasn't happened. And what hasn't happened is the Snope versus Brown case, which is an assault weapons case that we want the Supreme Court to hear and then rule in our favor. It has not been rejected. We were wondering what happened. We were hoping this thing was going to get in front of the Supreme Court for 2025, and it just kind of sat there. Well, there was a little bit of movement. They are going to have a conference on it, which basically means they're going to the Supreme Court justices and staff are going to actually revisit it and see if they want to put this, take the case and put it in front of the Supreme Court justices so that the other day in court. But it's not going to happen in 2025. Even if they right now or tomorrow, whatever, they say, hey, we want to take this case, we want to hear it. It's not going. We're not going to get a decision in 2025. Best case scenario now is 2026. But people have been wondering, because folks have been talking about it, what's going on with that case? Were they going to hear it? Are they rejecting it? What's happening? Well, there was a little bit of movement. They did decide that, hey, we're going to evaluate this thing, but that doesn't mean they're going to hear it. It's just not out of the running. So that's good news. It's not great news. It's not exactly what we want to hear yet, but patience, and I think we're eventually going to win this thing. It's Snope versus Brown. So that's what's going on. So what's next? Well, just wait and see if the Supreme Court finally takes it, but just know that even if they take it, you're not going to get a decision before 2026. In fact, it would probably be June of 2026. But we'll have to wait and see. Anybody that tells you they know what's going on is not telling you the truth. Nobody knows, but it's looking good. It's looking better than it did. So that's awesome. Okay, speaking of assault weapon bans, Senator Padilla, who is he's the senator from California that actually has a long history of being anti-gun. And Padilla has decided that he wants to implement a law that would actually be struck down If some of our lawsuits win, Padilla wants it to be federal law that someone under the age of 21, so this is an adult who is 18 or 19 or 20 years old, would not be able to own an assault weapon. Again, air quotes. If you're not watching the video, I did use the air quotes. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. This is actually not. It's a Second Amendment violation for two different reasons. Number one, he wants to implement a ban basically on a type of weapon, which is unconstitutional. That's exactly what we're fighting against. But he also wants to do it based on age, as if when you are 18, the age of majority, you don't get all your rights that are afforded you as an adult, as an American. And that, of course, is wrong. And it just doesn't make any sense. If you're 18, if you're an adult in America, you can enter into a contract. You can join the military. You can, buy cigarettes. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can have an abortion. You can have gender affirming surgery at 18, 19, 20 years old. You can do all these things, but you can't exercise your Second Amendment right. And there's an entire class of weapons that is banned. Well, that of course is wrong. I don't really understand what he's doing here. We have a Congress that is generally, pro Second Amendment. We have a president that's generally pro Second Amendment. We have a Supreme Court that's generally pro Second Amendment. And he chooses now to do this ridiculous bill. I don't understand it. Sometimes when you're in the minority in Congress or any legislature, you introduce these bills to show your base that you're fighting back, against the majority. Or as a fundraiser, you want to raise a bunch of money, you send it out and say, hey, I'm running this bill and please send $20 so I can get it approved, that sort of thing. Sometimes, he'll do this so that, or politicians will run these bills so that it forces the other side to take a stance that maybe they think is unpopular. I don't think that's the case in this situation. I think that he's on the unpopular side, frankly, but whatever. Let him bury his colleagues. I think that the more they do this, the more anti-gun legislation that they push, the more their colleagues who generally agree with them will not get reelected. So if his party, he's a Democrat, Padilla, of course, if he continues to do these extremist bills that are generally unpopular, people who are also Democrats in other parts of the country, their ability to get reelected will suffer. So go ahead, keep doing it. I think it's very unpopular. Gun bans are very unpopular. Taking the rights away from adults is very unpopular. So what's going to happen with this? Well, it's got some co-sponsors. It's got to make its way through the process, but I just don't think that this thing's going to pass. But that doesn't mean we can just, stop paying attention. I mean, we're still going to have to fight back, make sure it doesn't pass, make sure that there's a lot of pushback. But man, this bill is about as bad as it gets. Bans on guns for people based on their age. I mean, it's all kinds of violations of the Constitution. So that's what's going on with Padilla and his ridiculous proposal for a bill.
It's not his first attempt.
No, it's not.
Yep.
He's really, I mean, he is no friend. He's from the LA area. He is, interestingly enough, he was an MIT graduate, which means he's not an unintelligent man.
Right.
He's from California. He's from the LA area. He's been in politics for a while. This just feels like what do you call it when you're sending a signal? You're virtue signaling. This feels like this bill feels like he's virtue signaling to his base.
So just a little bit of a history on what he's done, and as far as gun rights go. 2022, he passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which attempted to implement gun safety legislation. He introduced the bicameral legislation to prevent the federal government from contracting with federal licensed firearms dealers to have a documented history. He joined with 27 senators in 2023, introducing the Keep America Safe Act, which was, for a majority of it, was having to deal with capacity bans.
Interesting.
So he's got
a
a
great
list of
guy.
things.
He's a known offender. He's a frequent flyer on the known offender list. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Let's talk about. Okay, there's one more thing. So we've talked about Attorney General Pam Bondi, and we've been, generally encouraged, but also very skeptical as far as how pro-Second Amendment she is. Now, one of the things I said when I was talking about her is that one of the reasons I'm not as worried as I could be, I guess, about her, because she's defended some anti-gun stuff in the past. She's done some anti-gun stuff in the past that I wasn't real happy about. But that's when she was the elected Attorney General of Florida. She is now the appointed Attorney General of the United States, which means that she basically has to do the bidding of the guy who appointed her, which is Donald Trump. So she doesn't have as much latitude to be able to, do the things that she wants, I guess. I mean, she still has to fall in line and do ultimately what her boss says. And I think this is a really good example of that. One of the things she's done here is that she put out a memo. It's actually a couple of things happening here. There's actually a few things happening here that are kind of interesting, and all kind of go together. She put out a memo basically saying, hey, ATF, you need to stop going after, gun owners who are peaceable people. We want you to emphasize going after immigration, human trafficking, and transnational gangs. And that's a direct quote. It's exactly what she said in the memo. She wants them to go after, quote, dangerous criminals. And that, again, a direct quote from the memo. Rather than political motivated witch hunts. Political motivated witch hunts.
I like it.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's interesting. And so what's an example of that? Well, there's a couple of things. By emphasizing immigration and human trafficking and transnational gangs, rather than going after, law-abiding gun owners, and getting them all hung up on paperwork.
Trying to shut down FFLs.
Exactly.
Yep.
Biden had a no-tolerance policy for FFLs. Now, it's kind of interesting. There were, before Biden's no-tolerance policy, there were in 1 year about 24 FFLs that lost their license for one reason or another. Once Biden implemented the no-tolerance policy for FFLs, that shot up to over 800. Over 800. Now, these were FFLs. They weren't losing their license because they were, arming gangs or something like that. They were losing their license under this no-tolerance policy because of a mistake in paperwork or something like that. And we've talked a little bit about that in the past. But going from, it was about in the 20s, 22, 23 to over 800 is, of course, clearly predatory. So she's basically saying, look, and by the way, the ATF was never supposed to be a knock down the door, throw cuffs on people organization. It was supposed to be, processing paperwork and collecting taxes. That's what the ATF was originally supposed to do. This emphasis on going after people because the administration that they're under doesn't like guns, that's a relatively new thing, and it needs to stop. And I've said before, I've long said, for the history of the show, the ATF, they are a predatory agency. And anybody working for the ATF is not a friend of the Second Amendment, period, full stop. And what they're doing under Trump through his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is definitely vindication from what I've been saying. It sounded like an extreme thing to say is, hey, this is a predatory agency that are going after peaceable, law-abiding gun owners. It was kind of an extreme thing to say on a podcast or a radio show, but clearly I was right. Clearly what I was saying was accurate. So let's talk a little bit more about the political motivated witch hunts. Now, this is kind of interesting. He wants to. There was another executive order that Trump put out. It was Executive Order 14147, And this executive order titled Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government. It's an executive order signed by Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States, on January 20th, 2025. This executive order directs agency heads to search for previous politically motivated conduct by intelligence, justice, or regulatory agencies, and to make recommendations on how to hold perceived responsible actors accountable. The order specifically focuses on the Department of Justice, Securities and Exchange Commission, and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. Okay, so because of this order, there's a guy named Eric Adams who was being prosecuted. Eric Adams is the mayor of New York. Now, Eric Adams is not a friend of Donald Trump, okay? In fact, he was very critical of Donald Trump. He was very left-wing. All the most recent Democrat policies that you can think of, he was very vocal on, including being very critical of law enforcement. So you'd think, okay, well, this guy would fall right in line with Biden and the Democrats. So what's the problem? Well, I don't know if you remember, but about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he started speaking up on immigration, and he was very vocal. So you have a Democrat who's the mayor of New York standing up and saying, hey, illegal immigrants are a problem. The Biden administration and the way that they're handling illegal immigration is a huge problem, and it's hurting us. Well, all of a sudden, the Biden administration, their Department of Justice decided that, hey, he needs to get investigated. And part of the weaponization of government is they go investigate and find something that you've done wrong, rather than, seeing that something's been done wrong and then going and figuring out who did it. And that's a huge, huge difference. So they had a bunch of accusations against this mayor. They were trying to crush him. They were trying to crush his political career, saying that he was accepting bribes and a number of other accusations that I'm not even going to go into. But he was on the hot seat, and things were about to go really, really bad. And the Trump administration has said, we're done. We're not doing that. This is exactly one of the politically motivated witch hunts that we were talking about. The Biden administration didn't like the fact that he was speaking up and criticizing them for their immigration policies or lack of immigration policies. Therefore, we are going to prosecute him and end his career. And Trump, even though this guy, Eric Adams, is not a friend of the Trump administration, Trump and the Trump administration and his DOJ have said, hey, we have enough character that we want to stop all political witch hunts. We want to stop all abuses of power. And so that's what they've done. So I wanted to talk about that. All those things kind of go hand in hand. So far, Attorney General Pam Bondi is doing a great job. She's reversing. And oh, by the way, the senators, something like 30 senators came out and said, hey, we want you to undo all the things that the Biden administration did do, which is really amazing. They includes the no tolerance thing for FFLs. It included the braces, the pistol brace. It included a number of things. And they also fired the lead counsel for the ATF, which is also related to this. The lead counsel had her hand in all of this. And oh, by the way, she was an anti-gun extremist and was donated to the Biden administration, donated to the Democratic Party, was extremely anti-gun. And she was involved in all this policy making. And Pam Bondi not only fired her, but escorted her out of the building. She is gone. Career over. So they mean business, man. They mean business. They're protecting even their enemies from abuse of power. They are changing the focus of the ATF. They're protecting peaceable, law-abiding gun owners, and I think that that's to be commended. Not with just one executive order, but at least two that are having a great effect. So I'm really, really happy about that. What do you think, Alicia?
I think that's great.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, that's all you need to know this week.
That's our legal and legislative setting.
Easy for you to say. Okay, our next guest is a guy named William, and he runs Copper Jacket. And Copper Jacket is a fantastic channel on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. But before we go to this interview, it's sponsored by Cargo, Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters in El Cajon. Check out their website, cargostores.com. It is at 423 Broadway in El Cajon, so if you are in the neighborhood, go check them out. If you need to protect your gear while you're on the go, look no further. Cargo has the perfect case for you, so if you need to protect it and you want it customized, Cargo is the place to go. Use code GOR for 10% off their website, or mention Gun Owners Radio or STCGO at their store for 10% off. If you're a manufacturer, they also do customized branded cases for businesses too. So check them out. Great products, great prices, and uncommonly good service. Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters. Hey, William, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much for all that you do with Copper Jacket. I got to tell you, I do not compliment your channel nearly enough. You are absolutely wonderful on all the information that you provide, and you are so quick to provide good and accurate information. I'm always impressed. So I wanted to say thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you very much. Likewise, I enjoy all the content you guys put out. Always very informative and top notch.
Well, good. Well, thank you for taking the time. So, a big announcement. You pointed out in your latest video a couple days ago about how we're getting our horrible governor here in California is getting termed out, which is the good news. We're finally going to be done with this guy. And we've had one person throw his hat in the ring, and you did a video on him, and I thought we'd have a conversation. I have a little bit of I've had a lot of contact with this. We're talking, of course, Chad Bianco, the sheriff from Riverside. And I've had a lot of contact with him, including a questionnaire that he did, because he was actually endorsed by Inland Empire Gun Owners for his reelection. So I thought it was a great opportunity for us to connect and have a whole conversation about him. What are you hearing about Sheriff Bianco so far?
You know, it's interesting. I've really only heard good things. I know there was a little bit of controversy a while back, but that seemed to be squashed fairly quickly. But I've heard a lot of good things. I know that he's done a lot of great things for carry. I know that he said a lot of great things about the Second Amendment, things that we really need to hear in the state of California. So it's been good. It just, for me, I have questions, and I'm excited to hear about this questionnaire.
Yeah, well, and it's really interesting when it comes to law enforcement, or I should say specifically sheriffs, because I don't care how pro-gun someone is, when they're running for office, you should be skeptical. And,
Sure.
A sheriff, it's such a unique position when it comes to, compared to other elected officials. So we should always have a healthy dose of skepticism when it comes to someone running for office. But he has done there are a lot of good things. I don't really have, I'll be honest with you. We'll go through the questionnaire here and talk about it. But I was thinking about it as I was driving into the studio. I don't have anything bad to say about him, so we're going to talk about it. But I got to tell you, I'm gonna sound a little fanboy. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
I don't have anything negative, but I do have I have some information to share. So
Sure. And with California, it's very easy to get jaded with existing politics and the way things have been run. And if you're not at least a little bit jaded, your armor is better than mine, because I do become almost instantly skeptical of anybody that runs.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I wish he had something up on his website that was Second Amendment related. I'm actually going to talk to him. I actually saw him this morning. He was at a press conference here in San Diego, so I took the opportunity to go down and say hello and shake his hand. Nice. And we, he ran for sheriff. Just to give everybody a little bit of history, he was working for the Riverside sheriff. I think he was lieutenant, and he actually ran against an incumbent. And the incumbent, it was kind of an interesting situation, because the incumbent he was actually endorsed by some of the other gun organizations, but he really wasn't that great on CCWs. He wasn't issuing very many of them. It was taking forever. He wasn't really standing up and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna fix this thing." And a lot of people were really frustrated with him over that. And Bianco stood up and ran and said, "Hey, I'm going to run for sheriff." And he put his career on the line. When you run against your boss and lose, good luck. You got to go find a new.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster right there. It's a career-ending decision. But
Yeah.
I think what came out of it, obviously, we can see just from the statistics alone that he ended up doing a really good job with that.
He did. And like you've brought up, CCW isn't the Second Amendment. That's not the whole Second Amendment. That's not the whole picture.
It's a fraction.
So he's done really well on CCW. But let's go through the questionnaire here. Now, our questionnaire is set up. When we set up our questionnaire, we have 4 options. Basically, we ask, it's not a gotcha questionnaire. We say, hey, here's the gun owner's position. Here's what we believe. We spell it out real clearly. And then we give them 4 options because I want our questionnaire to also be a commitment. So the 4 options are, number 1, I agree with you and I'm going to work to help. Number 2 is I agree with you, but I'm not going to work to help. 3 is I disagree with you, but I'm not going to work against you. And then 4 is I disagree with you and I will work against you. So those are the 4 options. And the reason I set it up to where it's a commitment is so when they do get elected, I can take this questionnaire because people can say anything they want on a questionnaire, Yeah, so I can take this questionnaire back to them and I say, hey, here's what you committed to doing. We need you to stand for ABC, XYZ, and you're saying no. On this questionnaire, you committed to saying that you were going to help. So that's good. But let's start with the first one is just the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The gun owner's position is that Second Amendment is an individual right, and the Supreme Court's New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin decision affirming that people have the right to keep and bear arms is correct. And with that, and he agreed. I agree with the gun owner's position and pledged to actively support.
I'd like to throw one thing in there really quickly.
Sure.
Your questions don't change based on the person being asked.
Correct.
This is a standard set of questions across the board from everybody.
Exactly right.
Correct.
So whether you're running for sheriff, assembly, state senate, well, not state senate or assembly, because we actually, my apologies, we endorse people on the city council, school board, sheriff. So it's from county down is where we endorse. The only way to get on our endorsement list on a state level is if you're already endorsed by another state level organization like GOC or CRPA or NRA, something like that. But yes, you're right. This is not sheriff or candidate specific. This is the same question everybody gets. So that's a softball, right, William? I mean, yeah, I support the Second Amendment. Everybody says that.
It's still a good question, regardless softball or not.
Yeah. Hillary Clinton said she supports the Second Amendment, and then we ask about CCWs, and basically, let's see, gun owner's position on concealed carry permits, CCW, is the permit should be issued to everyone who can legally possess a firearm after they complete an application, pay the required fee, pass the training class, and pass a background check. Anyone who can legally own a gun should also pass a CCW background check. So obviously what we mean there is there's no subjectivity. If they can own the gun, then they should be able to pass. Then the background check is, they should be able to pass the background check. In other words, some of the sheriffs, as Williams, they would add like, well, if they've had a DUI 20 years ago, then, even though they can legally own the gun, they can't have a CCW. And the point of this question is to eliminate that kind of subjectivity.
Okay, I lost you towards the middle there, but was that really directed at somebody who's a law-abiding citizen and gets the proper training and is properly vetted? Is that sort of the question that you asked him?
Yeah. So fill out the application, pay the fee, take the class, and then pass a background check. And then we went on to clarify that the background check, if they can legally own the gun, then they can legally pass a background check for a CCW. No subjectivity. And
so my obviously my position would be a little bit different than that. I would have liked to have asked him, as long as you're a law-abiding citizen of legal age and able to legally possess a firearm, you should be able to get a concealed carry permit, even without the fees and the training and stuff like that. And I'd be curious if he would say that.
Good question. We didn't quite go into that detail. Really, what we were concentrating on at the time, and still, although the Brewing case pretty much got rid of the subjectivity, but not totally. To be honest with you, there's still some subjectivity. There's still some lawsuits that need to be filed. But the focus for the CCW was, hey, we get rid of the subjectivity piece of it, and he agreed. He said, "I agree with the gun owner's position and pledge to actively support." And then he goes on, he actually wrote, there's a comment section, and he said, "As sheriff, I've decreased the processing time to 30 days and increased the amount of permits issued. I'll continue to improve the process."
Yeah, I will say that's pretty impressive, going from what was it, 2 years, I believe, up to 2 years, down to 30 to 60 days.
Not only was it 2 years, but before him, they had like 2,000 permits or something like that, 3,000 permits. And now,
Something.
yeah, tens of thousands, I think he's 40,000. And
there's something like 3 million people in Riverside County alone.
Yeah.
So to have only 2,000 or 3,000 active permits was unacceptable. I think he did a great job there. He definitely streamlined things.
He did, and that was really proof positive that the criticism of his predecessor was valid. The guy before him who was sheriff in Riverside was, "Oh, gee, I'm doing everything I possibly can." And within months of being elected and taking office, I should say, Chad Bianco as sheriff streamlined the system, boom, started shoving them through. So he really did do a good job there. Gun owner's position is to oppose California's roster of handguns approved for sale. For a manufacturer to sell a model of handgun or pistol in California, it must have a serial number on the firing pin to stamp a cartridge casing. The microstamping technology used to stamp a cartridge does not exist, thereby making it impossible for new pistols or newer versions of old models to be sold in California. Each year, the roster of handguns approved for sale eliminates more pistol options to California consumers and is little more than a slow-moving de facto pistol ban.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, and I agree with gun owner's position and pledge to actively support.
Yeah, that's a good answer. The roster has been an absolute burden on people's Second Amendment rights in that state for far too long.
Truly, and hopefully, at the very least, it looks like we're getting rid of that. At least the microstamp is going the way of the dodo, and hopefully we'll continue to have success on that. The next one, gun owner's position is to oppose bans on gun ammunition magazines. California has laws banning the import, sale, purchase, or possession of standard capacity firearm magazines that exceed 10 rounds. California is currently limited to having guns with magazines that can only hold 10 rounds maximum, even though the firearm was designed to hold more rounds in a standard capacity magazine that other states can have. So basically saying we oppose, the magazine bans. He says he agrees with us. He agrees with the gun owner's position and pledges to actively support.
Okay, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, these are very excellent topics. You've hit some very good topics. The roster, magazines,
and they're and they're straightforward. There's not a lot of wiggle room. I mean, it's pretty straightforward what we're asking.
Right.
And then two more. Gun owner's position is to oppose ammunition registration and online purchase bans, a law requiring background checks and banning the online purchase of ammunition passed in California and has been implemented. California is forcing gun owners to go through all the steps required to purchase a firearm each time they order or purchase ammunition. The ammunition background check system is flawed and regularly prevents law-abiding people with no criminal history from buying ammunition because California's database is not accurate. So we're saying we oppose the background check on ammunition. And he says, I agree with gun owner's position and pledge to actively support.
That's fantastic. Yeah, those are good things that I was not aware of before. Like you said earlier, if he was to add that to his website and simply put his position there, I think a lot more people would support that.
I agree. Like I said, I want to send a message about that and see if he's still working on it or if he intends to or what the situation is. And then the last one was about increasing sensitive areas or in effect, gun bans, in certain areas like SB2, what SB2 did. And we, of course, oppose those. And he says, I agree with gun owners' position and pledge to actively support. And that's the whole questionnaire. I think it like you said, it hit the big points. And I think he was crystal clear. But he is also running for office. So, like I said before, I think a healthy bit of skepticism is right. But so far, he seems legitimate. He seems like the real deal.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you have to take a look at it from the average guy's perspective, from the average citizen's perspective, man or woman. But you have to look at it from the average person's perspective, where they're seeing all the things that are getting in their way on a daily basis when they just want to go and practice what is supposed to be a right. Why do I have to overcome so many barriers for a right? Do you support this or do you not support this? Why can't I have what everybody else in the rest of the country has? Why can't I have the same magazines? Why can't I have the same gun that my brother has in Montana? There's a lot of things that people see as a problem. And if they could see somebody actively on their side saying, look, I understand what's going on here, Governor, I would not support these. I would actively work to overturn them and make the changes necessary to simply have the government get out of my way when I want to practice a right. And so for me, I need that reassurance, and that reassurance is really what stands out. Okay, so we've talked about CCWs. I like the fact that he's not only spoken about CCWs, but we have proof in action with the number of CCWs that have increased. I like that we can actually see something physical that has happened because of him. But there's so much more that could be expanded on for that. And there are so many gun owners in the state of California and so many pro-2A people that just want to jump behind somebody and would actively jump behind somebody if they felt like they had somebody in government that had their back. And so I think jumping ahead of it instead of maybe, and I'm not saying that this is what he's doing, but maybe being afraid to openly say some of these things in California, which to one side of the party is very unfriendly, right?
Yeah.
He needs to be more proactive on this side.
What do you think about that? I'm not saying that's necessarily what he's doing, but a lot of politicians do that, where they kind of, I'm going to say they're pro Second Amendment, but they don't emphasize it. They kind of shy away from it. They kind of say, hey, I am, but I don't really want to talk about it because I'm trying to get elected here. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think politicians need to stop worrying so much about offending somebody and stand up for something. Because, I mean, if you take a look at Trump, right, he's unashamed. He will say whatever he wants. He will say what he truly believes, and people support that. And I think that if he truly supports the Second Amendment, he supports these rights, and other politicians support these rights, it's best to just stand up and say, this is where I'm at. And the ones that don't, the ones that say I support it, but there's no action, or maybe they're too afraid to say something publicly on a speech, I don't feel like they really support the Second Amendment. I think the average person out there probably feels the same way.
I agree. And the other thing is, I don't think you're not fooling anybody. You're not going to trick anybody into voting for you. You're not going to be like, nah, I'm in office now. Turns out I'm pro Second Amendment. Ha ha. It's just, we don't live, when information is at our fingertips with the internet, you're just not going to fool anybody. So own it, own it.
That's a very good point. The internet changed absolutely everything. We can look up your past. We can look up your voting record. We can look up things that we just didn't have access to in the past. And so we can see these things now. You need to see what you stand for. You need to be open and forthcoming.
Yeah. And by the way, again, I'm not saying that's what he's doing at all. In fact, I've interviewed him a couple of times. He's been at our meetings. He's actively, he picks up the phone and answers. I remember one time we interviewed him on Facebook Live, and he went through his section, and gave his talk and everything. And at the time, obviously, everybody had questions about CCWs. And then he sat there and answered everybody's question while we went on with the rest of the meeting. People were sending him messages in the chat, and he sat there for 45 minutes and answered everybody's question. So I'm not saying he's shying away from this at all. I have no idea, but I would like to see him put it up on his website. And I do think, especially looking at, like, you look at past candidates like Meg Whitman and Steve Poizner and some of these guys, And it was like having to try to drag him over the Second Amendment finish line. I mean, they were really bad. You know, Larry Elder ran, and he's legit 2A. But I really do think we have a legit Second Amendment guy. And if we motivate and activate every gun owner in California, we could really, truly have an impact. We don't have an incumbent. We could really, truly have an impact and get somebody who's truly a friend of ours elected. But, you know, it's not a spectator sport. It's not going to be one with memes and good intentions. We got to get out there and roll up our sleeves.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And motivating people is going to be a key here, especially in a state where, you know, unfortunately, we're a little bit outnumbered, right? So you got to use every tool in your toolbox to get people to show up. And sometimes you end up with single issue voters. There are people out there that vote strictly along Second Amendment lines. They don't care about anything else. They vote on Second Amendment lines. Other people, you know, will venture out a little bit more. But you got to make sure you get those key voters to show up on the day for you.
Exactly. Well, excellent. The other thing I think people will be happy to hear is today when he was at this press conference, I took a close look. In fact, I took a picture, and he carries a SIG. So I think a lot of people will be happy to see that he carries a SIG. So, but anyway, anything else? Anything else you want to add, William? I can't thank you enough for taking the time. But anything else you want to cover or talk about?
I'm so happy to be here. Absolutely love your guys' show. I got to say, just off the bat, I'm excited about Chad Bianco running. I am. If we were to take a look at what we have now and just compare it to Chad, it's night and day. It's not even really comparable at all. And so I'm excited to see what he has to offer, and I'm going to give him absolutely every benefit of the doubt. There'll always be that doubt until I feel 100% confident about it, but I am excited for the future of California. I feel like we have a real chance here.
I agree. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a little bit of a fanboy, and I hate to say that. I tell my activists, I say, hey, when it comes to candidates and elected officials, treat them the way you would treat an underperforming employee. If you treat them better or you treat them worse, you're probably making a mistake. You know, if you treat them too good, well, they got you in their pocket and they don't have to listen to you anymore, right? If you treat them too bad, they think, well, I'm never going to change this guy's mind. Why would I even try? But if you kind of treat them like this underperforming, like, well, gee, I wish you were doing better. I don't know. You know, they'll at least work to, you know, to try to get to where you need them to. And I'm breaking those rules with Chad Bianco. He truly is somebody I've been there.
Hopefully you can get in there and clean house, right?
You know, I had a lot of respect for Bianco starting back during coronavirus times. Like that's when I really kind of saw him. What's that?
No, I'm just saying you make a great point.
Yeah, Mike, he always makes all the good points. All right, but Bianco, I really saw him and his heart and he gives nothing. He was really, you know, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to be a police state, right? I'm going to do what's right. And he really made it clear what his opinion was, and he didn't hide it. He didn't sugarcoat anything, and I appreciated that. And I'm waiting for the same attitude and the same heart to come out about Second Amendment and firearms related things. So
yeah, he stood up hard to Gavin Newsom.
He did.
It was not shy at all.
Absolutely.
So. Well, cool. William, thanks so much for joining us, man. Appreciate everything you do. Appreciate you. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Likewise. You guys take care of yourselves.
All right, brother. Take care. Okay, that was a great interview. I can tell you, Copper Jacket is wonderful. William is even better.
Love his beard.
Yeah, me too. He's just great. He's just a great guy. Sticking it out there, doing the research, getting all the information out for people, and I'm really glad he took the time. I thought it was interesting. I thought everything he had to say was valuable, and I hope I got to tell you, I hope Chad Bianco has a fantastic run for office. I just think he's a great guy. So,
and I think that healthy skepticism helps you to stay open, and it allows you to kind of stay open to listening and to seeing the facts and not just looking at everything one-sided. So I think it's great.
Amen. Okay, so we have the Massad Ayoob MAG-20 class coming up, and we wanted to let you know this last segment was, of course, sponsored by Cargo, and they have some really cool things. If you're a member, if you show up for the class, which, by the way, there's still room for the lecture portion. It's a 2-day lecture. Live fire is already sold out, so don't miss the live lecture part. It's extremely, extremely interesting. And if you attend Cargo, has donated this really cool case. Can you see that? Can you see the case? Let's see. There we go. It's a really cool gun case. Let's see if I can do it here. And when you open it up, it locks. You can transport your firearms. It's got a custom cutout, which, by the way, you can set this up for any gun. He has it set up for a 1911 and a stock Glock 19, but you can set it up for any kind of gun, which is very, very cool. And then you also get this really cool commemorative customization, Mastering Self-Defense. There he is, Massad Ayoob himself. And then, of course, the date, March 2025, San Diego, California. You could win this. If you sign up for the class and go to the lecture, Cargo is one of the prizes you could win. Thank you so much, Cargo. You guys are absolutely wonderful. Love everything you do. You could also win a really cool shirt. The Sun's Out, Guns Out shirt.
Muscle shirt.
Which is a muscle shirt, of course, right?
That's it.
That's what we mean by Guns Out. And then, and it's made in the USA, of course. And then Condor's Outdoor CCW Sling Bag is another prize you can win. Anyway, the important thing is sign up for the class, check it out, go to gunownersradio.com, sign up today. Space is limited, but we do have plenty of room right now, and you could be one of the winners. So there you go. All right. Curtain Call. Every week we find a defensive gun use story that Alicia tells us the ins and outs on. She's Alicia Curtin. Boy, we're really struggling today.
Both of us. Both of us.
It's hard to speak. She's Alicia Curtin. You're Alicia Curtin.
Yes, I am.
So we call this segment Curtain Call. And this week is the story of a Fort Worth man fatally shot after breaking into an ex-girlfriend's apartment. Take it away, Alicia.
That's it. Well,
what happened?
So the article comes from usacarry.com. So as stated, out of Fort Worth, Texas, we had a 37-year-old man who was shot and killed after breaking into his ex-girlfriend's apartment and confronting not only the ex-girlfriend but someone. They don't specify who. There was a second party there as well. So essentially, what happened is that it appears that this was at nighttime. And he just simply showed up. He made his way through the door. He kind of pushed his way in, found the ex along with a second person in that home. And the ex felt threatened by the presence, and she did pull out a firearm, and she did proceed to shoot him. So he did not survive the encounter. So she fired. She shot towards him multiple times, striking him at least once. So the article doesn't specify how many shots fired, but it does state multiple shots were fired, struck once. Police stated that the shooter remained at the scene and has been cooperating with the investigation. No arrests have been made. And that's the end of the article. However, something that I feel that as I read through these, I think, what's a learning point to this? What's something that we can take away?
Yeah. What'd you come up with?
So this happened in a home. Mm-hmm. Do you carry when you're at home?
I would say it depends. That's a good question. I know there are people that as soon as they walk in the door, they disarm.
Right.
I don't necessarily do that, but I can't say I make a point of carrying all the time when I'm at home.
And I have to agree. I essentially am the same. And I think it really kind of is something that can give us maybe some pause for thought. If someone were to break into your home, where are you? Where are your guns at? If something were to be needed, how long does it take you to find and to acquire them and to be able to get to them? How are you storing them? Do you store them secured but loaded? Are they not? Kind of think through your process. We know when we get ready for the day, we go ahead and we put our firearm on our person, we holster it, we grab our keys, we get our wallet, we get our things, and then we go out. But when we're in our home, we tend to be a little bit more in code white, right? We kind of tend to feel safe, as we should. However, if something were to go down, because we don't get to pick the timing, we don't get to decide when it's time for an encounter. The encounter finds us. Are you ready?
There you go.
So just kind of give that some thought.
Of course, do you have a shower gun?
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
Everybody needs a shower gun.
I bet Cargo has a case for that. That'll be waterproof, right?
We'll have to ask Cargo. Cargo, do you guys specifically make a case that is a shower gun?
Shower-proof. I love it.
All right, cool. Awesome.
That's it.
There you go. Fort Worth man fatally shot after breaking into ex-girlfriend's apartment. Well, I'm so glad that she remain safe. Good for her. So, all right, fantastic. All right, next, deployment. We want to make sure that, activism can be intimidating, and but it's necessary. And of course, this is America. The American experiment is that you live in the land of the self-governed. You are not ruled by somebody. You govern yourself. At least that's what it's supposed to be. But in order for that to stay that way, you have to be involved. And we like to make activism easy. We like to make sure that we set things up so that you can spend the hours that you set aside for activism each month doing something that's really, useful. So this section, deployment, sponsored by Red, White, and Badass Brew for coffee. If you're a coffee lover and you want to buy from a fantastic company, go to rwbbcoffee.com, rwbbcoffee.com, and use GOR to get 15% off some of the best coffee out there from a fantastic guy who's pro-Second Amendment. Support those who support the Second Amendment. First one is train with a national expert. The how of shooting is easy. The when and why of defensive gun use, well, that's a little bit harder. That's the real challenge, in fact. So you can learn from Massad Ayoob at his Armed Citizens Rule of Engagement class on March 8 and 9. Knowledge is your best defense. Secure your spot at gunownersradio.com. All you got to do is click the link for Mastering Self-Defense. And like we said in the last segment, you could win some cool prizes. All you got to do is sign up. Look forward to seeing you there. It is not to be missed. And then, of course, you can meet Massad Ayoob at our exclusive welcome dinner. Join us for an evening with Massad Ayoob on March 5th at Discount Gunmart on Marina, where we are currently. We're going to have mouth-watering food from Sauced Pizzeria in Pacific Beach. Sauced, of course, is my favorite spaghetti place. Those guys make excellent food. Tickets are on sale now. Space is limited. Don't wait. Just click on the Mastering Self-Defense link on gunownersradio.com's website. Join us. Meet Massad Ayoob, a true legend. We need volunteers for that event, so be a part of the Mastering Self-Defense Week. We're still looking for a few helping hands for the welcome reception dinner. Sign up at sdcgo.org/volunteer. So sdcgo.org/volunteer, if you live in the San Diego area, is a fantastic resource. We have all kinds of opportunities for you to sign up and be a volunteer. So check them out. Some of the things coming up is you can teach somebody to shoot at one of our shooting socials on March 8th or March 16th, or you can come have fun with us at a tabletop, spreading the word about San Diego County gun owners, the Second Amendment, and how to get your CCW on the February 22nd. We actually have two events, one at the Turkey Tune-Up and one at North County Shooting Center. Tabletops are fun. They're easy. We'll train you. You'll never be alone, but go to stcgo.org/volunteer for more information. And then don't forget, Intro to Off-Grid Communications on March 15th. If you want to stay connected when traditional methods fail, you need to take this class. You'll take home the skills, the practice, and the gear so you can make sure you're connected when the grid goes down. Sign up at the website. Okay. Our next interview is with six-time Olympic medalist in the shotgun event. Her name is Kim Rhode, and we interviewed her. She took the time to sit down with us. It's a fantastic interview where you learn more about her, you learn more about her shooting techniques and what she has to offer, but you also learn that Kim is running for the NRA Board of Directors. And so we're going to have her talk about that and more in this interview. Enjoy. Hi, Kim. How's it going?
It's going good. It's great to be here. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been looking forward to talking to you. You know, I didn't get a chance to say hello, but you and I were in the same room at the same time up in Orange County a couple of months ago when Doug Hamlin from NRA, the new head of the NRA, was in town. How was that event for you?
It was great. It was great to get up there and talk and, get to meet everybody and just really, be surrounded by so many like-minded individuals. I think that's like the best part of it. But yeah, it was fantastic. And of course, being a board member of the NRA and rerunning for the board of NRA, it's an exciting time right now as we move into this new phase for not only NRA, but the shooting sports in general.
Yeah, you are equally as well known for your amazing feats in the Olympics and your activism, your Second Amendment activism, which is really amazing. You do both. You spend a lot of real time and do a lot of real work on both. And so let's start with your activism a little bit. You are an NRA board member, and the NRA is going into what's being called NRA 2.0, which I frankly was. I think all of us were a little skeptical, but the more I learn about it and the more I see, the more excited I get. So what would you like to say about NRA 2.0?
Well, I think change was definitely needed, and obviously 2.0 is leading in a better direction. And for me, I'm really more on the competition side as well as the political side. I'm the lead plaintiff against the state in California on Prop 63. So I've been fighting that for about 8 or 9 years now. They just keep bringing it up and wasting taxpayer dollars fighting me on it. But we're continuing to fight the fight on the ammunition background checks and just stuff like that I think not a lot of people realize how much that affects not only, Second Amendment people, but also competitive shooters like myself. So I'm very active in the competitive world. I'm the vice president of ISSF. I serve on many different organizations, one being Kids and Clays, where we raise millions of dollars for families that have sick and ill children. So I'm very active throughout a lot of stuff, including even LA 2028 Olympics. So it's exciting to see the future and what that holds for our sport, but also I think it's very important more than ever that we come together and recognize the importance of what we get to take advantage of each and every day, and truthfully just make sure that it's around for the future generations, for people like my son and for others, both competitively and then just on the sporting side, just to enjoy it just because you love it, and you have that right.
Yeah, I appreciate you being a plaintiff on that lawsuit. It's so amazing how hard it is and how hesitant people are to step up, in the Second Amendment fight, particularly here in California. California gets a bad. Well, I was going to say California gets a bad rap when it comes to the Second Amendment, but they've really earned that reputation. But that's also, I think people forget that there are a lot of really true, hardworking Second Amendment fighters here in California. But you wouldn't think of a competitive shooter, as someone that would make their home in California under such a hostile environment. What keeps you in California? Why are you in California as a competitive shooter?
Well, I'm born and raised Californian, and I go back multiple generations in California. My entire family is in California for the most part. So that for me is first and foremost. I mean, probably the main reason why I stay here in California. Family is important, so are friends. But at the same time, too, I think a lot of people forget how big the shooting is in California. I mean, shooting in California is one of the largest markets in the United States. So as much as we like to tout, like all the negativities, there's a lot of positives out there, especially in California. Like when you look at, all the diversity when it comes to hunting and fishing and the weather and all the other aspects, I think, I'll always have a place here, but I tell you, they don't make it easy on us. That's for sure. And that's one of the reasons why I'm fighting. I mean, you're right. Not a lot of people are willing to step up to the plate. But there are those that do, and I am definitely one of them, as I recognize the importance of what the shooting sports really mean to me, to my family. And, I think a lot of people don't realize the lifestyle. This is something that's been passed down generationally in my family, something that I intend to pass on to my son. And so thus the passion to continue and to fight.
I appreciate it very much. This is truly, staying and fighting. I can't tell you how commendable that is, and I'm so proud of the people who fight on behalf of the Second Amendment here in California, because this really is where the fight is. I like to tell people that George Washington isn't famous because he rented a U-Haul and moved to Texas.
Well, I always say it starts on the West Coast and then the East Coast, and then it kind of like converges somewhere in the middle. So if we can stop it on the West Coast, it's a start, and that's truly what we're trying to do here.
So you are a six-time medalist, Olympic medalist. How does that feel? Was that when growing up and when you started getting involved in competitive shooting? Was that did you ever think you'd be there?
I mean, I don't think you ever start something thinking that you're going to be the very best in the world at it at any time. I think you just kind of get thrown into that position with winning, kind of over and over again. It wasn't anything that I kind of woke up and said, I'm going to be the best at this. It was something that I definitely loved and had a passion for. Started off shooting in local competitions, and somebody said, you're pretty good, why don't you try the state shoot? And then it was the world shoot, and you just kind of keep getting funneled in that same direction, and pretty soon it was 1 Olympics, 2 Olympics, and now I'm going for my 7th Olympics, which will be LA 2028. So it's hard to put into words what it means to win an Olympic medal, other than that, when you're standing up there on that podium and you see that American flag going to the top of the pole and that national anthem playing, I can just say every emotion hits you at once. You want to run, scream, cry, jump up and down, and you just don't know which one to do first. I guess that's the best way I could describe an Olympic medal. Winning it, at least, to anyone. It's truly incredible, but it's addicting, and it has me going back again and again. And of course, I think the most incredible part is just the honor of representing your country, wearing the red, white, and blue on your back, and getting up there and having that audience cheer USA, USA, and it's incredible, and I hope to get the opportunity to do it again.
Well, it sounds like you basically won so many medals that the Olympics finally said, okay, fine, we're going to have to put it right there in her backyard for her. So they're moving it to LA, right? This 2028? It's going to be in LA.
It's going to be in LA 2028. We're excited. Lots of planning going on. I'm very involved with the ISSF side of that, and very excited about what the future holds for rifle, pistol, and shotgun. And we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I think the announcement will come probably in March-ish timeframe as to the actual venue. So we don't even know that yet, but we're only one of 8 events that hasn't been announced yet. So we're getting down to the wire, and we expect that announcement to be made very soon.
So there's logistics that they have to figure out, obviously, where the venue is going to be and how they're going to do it. Has there been any political pushback with firearms in the Olympics?
No, we haven't. I mean, we haven't had any pushback as far as firearms in the Olympics. I mean, the Olympic organization is very much pro-shooting in the sense that, we've been in the Olympics from the very beginning. I mean, Baron Pierre de Coubertin was a former, French pistol shooting champion, if my memory serves me correctly. And we actually hold quite a few records in the Olympics. So he was one of the founders, if not the founder of the Olympics. But the reality is shooting has been in from the very beginning, since the modern games, and has been a staple ever since. And so when you look at some of the history, like we have the oldest medalist in the history of the Olympics, who was 72 years old when he won a silver medal in the running deer double shot team event, something that we don't have anymore. But there are quite a few different events in the Olympics, from rifle, pistol, and shotgun, and we're very excited. We had huge and tremendous success in the Paris Games with some of our rifle and pistol shooters, having Elon Musk, Twitter about some of them. So we had some massive responses and quite a few clicks, and, that just really goes to show, just the forward thinking and the excitement as we lead up to the LA 2028 games. And, the Olympics really are about responsibility and discipline and focus and all these really incredible things. And, not everybody has the physique of some of the other sports to be able to compete in, where shooting is very welcoming to everyone. So it doesn't matter your age or your size, your stature. So I think shooting really stands apart from a lot of the other events in the Olympics in that regard.
That's amazing. And I know winning 6 medals, being at the top of your game like you are, takes a lot of practice, an amazing amount of focus. For folks that are watching and they want to be better, what's a training tip that you can give them?
Well, I think the first thing everybody will say is don't miss. I think that's the first thing.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
I know, right? That's what I've been doing wrong too. But no, the reality is, I always say the trick is not to miss when it counts the most. And I think that's really a true statement. You know, the Olympics are about putting yourself out there in literally every type of environment and scenario you can think of, trying to prepare as you lead up to the Olympics, shooting, you know, thousands of rounds, making yourself a machine and doing it 1,000 times, nothing different. And I think every sport within the shooting has, you know, different aspects that are brought to the table. Some are about stability, some are about movement. I mean, it's really what draws you to the event. So you'll find different personalities are drawn to the various events. But at the same time, that's what makes shooting so fantastic, is that you have that diversity, you have that challenge, whether it be about precision, whether it be about, you know, being able to read all the elements and the wind and the lighting and everything that goes into it. So I think it's a fascinating sport. It's a sport that, you know, transcends countries, transcends, you know, a lot of different things. And, you know, I look forward to the competition in LA 2020. It'll be a fantastic showing of the best. And that's really what it represents. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. You know, I get asked all the time, you know, how much do you shoot a day? You know, what does it, you know, entail? And for me, it's just personally, it's a lot of repetition, a lot of putting lead down range. I average anywhere between, I would say, 500 to 1,000 rounds a day, 7 days a week with a 12 gauge shotgun. I shoot a Beretta DT11 over and under. So it's really a testament just not only to the amount we're shooting, but to the equipment, as we're not just your run-of-the-mill, you know, as I like to say, weekend warrior kind of guys. We are literally, you know, pushing it and ourselves to the limit, as that's really what the Olympics represent. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's very challenging. And like I said, hopefully we'll be bringing home some medals in LA.
It is a lot of fun. I came into shooting. I didn't grow up hunting. That wasn't my path to Second Amendment, to firearms. You know, I really it was, you know, my first gun was a Glock, and it was really more of a defensive interest than it was sporting or hunting or anything like that. But I remember years ago, a shooting buddy said, "Hey, let's try sporting clays," and man, was that fun! It just absolutely, you know, it was the most fun I'd had shooting, and I absolutely love it. In fact, I was using my dad's pump action shotgun for years, which I love. I loved it. I was, you know, I'm not going to win 6 Olympic medals. I was just out there to have fun. But I finally gave that to my nephew, and now I'm thinking I got to get a shotgun and get back out there and do sporting clays. And I'm thinking about getting a side-by-side just to be a little different, you know, be a little classic. But it really is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast, and that's really the beauty of shooting. I mean, you can always find something that you gravitate towards, whether it be cowboy action, whether it be sporting clays, whether it be, you know, upland bird, or just good old fashioned, you know, American skeet, American trap, or you can get more into the international versions, like what I'm doing, which is international skeet, international bunker, or international trap, as they say. It's just really what draws you to it, and everybody has their reasons. You know, for me, shooting was something that was passed down from, you know, family member to family member. My grandfather was a houndsman, big time hunter. Taught my dad taught my mom, and my mom and dad taught me. And it was, you know, getting ready for one of those local dove hunts in Yuma, Arizona, that somebody's like, you know, you're pretty good, you know, and, you know, one thing leads to another, and here I am now, 6 different Olympics, multiple different events, going for my 7th. And, you know, I think the biggest takeaway is that it doesn't get old. It's really about the places, the people, the travel, and the game that really has us coming back again and again.
What can, not just at the Olympic level, but, you know, having the Olympics here in California, having the shooting event here in California, getting involved in competitive shooting, what can you tell people that aren't really paying attention, gun owners that aren't paying attention to the competitive part, who are really worried about the Second Amendment part? What can you tell them that would show that it's important, or how does competitive shooting complement the Second Amendment fight, you know, especially in California?
Oh man, you know, I mean, there's the competition side is very diverse. I mean, one of the things that we deal a lot with is traveling with our firearms and ammunition, going across state lines, also, going overseas in my case. So there's a lot of, paperwork and different things like that we are always having to fill out, and guidelines to follow. I mean, just from the airline companies to the countries to even the national level within, the United States, and then even to the state level. So the biggest thing is just be aware, pay attention to the policies that are coming down the pipeline, the chain. Understand how that may not necessarily affect you right in this moment, but how down the line it could. And a great example of that is with this ammunition background that I'm fighting, Prop 63, Rhode versus Bonta. It's actually changed there a few, but the fact that, like, when I go to, say, a competition in Arizona and I have shot a match there and I have ammunition left over, I can't bring one shell back that I purchased in Arizona, and that becomes a challenge, because what do I do with it? I can't just leave it there. I can't take it with me. But then again, at the same time, somebody who's a non-California resident can fill their truck bed full of ammunition and drive it across state lines perfectly legal. So it's just little wacky things like that people just may not be aware of or understand how that affects not only law-abiding citizens, but just everybody in the shooting community as a whole, both nationally and internationally.
Culture affects politics and vice versa, and getting kids, especially and young adults, into competitive shooting and turning that into a hobby, and they see it on TV and they get to experience it, or their neighbor does it. I think that part of the reason that politics have gotten so hostile towards gun owners is that they changed the culture. They got rid of, gun safety classes and gun safety lectures in schools, and competitive gun teams in high schools. I can't tell you how many guys I hear, gee, back in my day, we used to have a shotgun team at high school, or we'd take our shotguns to high school and go shooting after school. I can't tell you how many times I hear that, and you can't help but connect the two.
It's interesting you say that, because, my dad talks about that, about taking, having gone and, taking his gun to school, and then, setting it in the principal's office. And when school was out, they went out and, did their thing. That was kind of a thing back in the day. You heard a lot of old timers talk about that. And you also, you said that there's not a lot of high school and different programs. Well, there are. It's just that people just aren't as aware of them. So you have SCTP, Scholastic Clay Target Program. You have the High School Clay Target League. Both of those are active within California. Both of them have teams in California. Both of them have active programs of thousands of kids shooting. And the amazing thing is that, it's the safest sport to compete in. When you look at comparatively to football or some of these other baseball type events, where they have tons of accidents, and then also the fact that anybody could do it. There's not a physique or a something that is required in order to do the sport. We have people that are in wheelchairs that are competing against perfectly able-bodied standing people, and that beat them all day long. So that's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter about your size, your stature, your strength, your, man, woman, child. Like, everybody competes at an equal playing field. Our biggest challenge is the politics, and that is something that is reality. So, like, California passed a while back that we can't promote the sport of shooting to anyone under the age of 18. And so this has been a huge challenge. Some of this has been walked back, because you had programs like the Boy Scout, that they had merit badges and different things like this, where they were teaching about safety, responsibility, or even the hunters education courses and some of these others. So some of this has been walked back, but yes, this is some of the stuff where you really want to pay attention to what's coming down that pipeline. You really want to be aware, and also be an advocate for educating. I mean, not everybody has a mentor like a grandparent or like me, my father or my mother, to teach them. So to take somebody who's never shot before under their wing and really take them out, educate them about safety and responsibility and teach them, I mean, that's really the best thing. I mean, if we all took 10 people a month or 10 people a year, I mean, think of the implications of that. Somebody who would never have had the opportunity. And I can say firsthand here in California how many people I've taken shooting that said, man, I've never done this. I never thought in my life I would be able to, you know, have this opportunity, you know, or they were terrified because of all the negativity that they had seen or heard about, and were completely stunned when they got out to the range and realized, wow, this is amazing. Like, everybody's so nice and, you know, so welcoming. I mean, it's really so important that we break down some of those barriers, that we really educate people about the programs and really be the voice. And that's really what I've tried to do throughout the years.
That's awesome. Yeah, the law that you're talking about that made it that prevents people from promoting gun safety classes for kids. It's absolutely amazing. The anti-gunners who say that they're promoting gun safety laws, you know, by making it illegal to teach gun safety, really showed their insincerity towards what they're doing. And, you know, the 90s and the 2000s and even the 2010s were pretty bad when it comes to horrible restrictive gun laws getting passed. You know, the 2010s was, you know, post McDonald. We'd hoped McDonald would really kind of solve everything, but it really shows that no, there's still a lot of work that we have to do. But lately, it feels like, you know, past 5 years or so, it really truly feels like something's changed. It feels like, you know, we've gotten people elected, we've won some lawsuits, and it really truly feels like, to me, that something's different. That it feels like we're winning, we're going in the right direction. You have the same feeling, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely feel like we're winning, you know, one step at a time. I mean, we've had some, like you said, some small wins and significant ones here and there, but at the same time, we still have a long ways to go. And it really comes back to educating that general public. I mean, I think we take for granted a little bit about what it is that we get to enjoy each and every day. And the more and more I, you know, realize that we're kind of preaching to the choir, it's about reaching outside that box and reaching more to the general public, really educating and really showcasing the lifestyle that is something that is very traditional in the United States. And I look back to like Norman Rockwell, you know, the famous illustrator, and I think you know where I'm probably going to go with this, but, you know, Norman Rockwell would paint a very general average American family in most of his paintings. You know, it was basically their lifestyle, and in almost every one of his paintings you see a firearm, because that was a way of life. And yes, I think we've gotten away from that, but I think you know, hanging on to those roots, sharing those roots, that heritage, really is important. And, you know, people understanding what that means and what that represents. And, you know, I think it's something that I'll be for sure to pass on to my son in the future, and hopefully he'll be able to, you know, enjoy all the stuff you and I get to take for granted.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. What do you like to do when you're not shooting and not an advocate for the Second Amendment? What's something you do on your own time for fun?
Well, I mean, gosh, I have a lot of hobbies. I tend to be a type A person, so I tend to do a lot. I love a lot of old cars. So
Oh, really?
I collect and restore old cars. That's one of my hobbies, as well as first edition children's books. So like the illustrators and the art. And then I also like to bake. So I'm kind of I
Wow,
like to do
you're pretty well rounded there. That's
yeah. Well, I think it comes a little bit from my you know, like the baking and cooking definitely comes from my heritage of shooting and loving the outdoors, you know,
yeah.
because we did all the canning and all that kind of stuff. But then, you know, the cars and the books, I think, are more just, you know, my passions when it comes to being able to travel and antique around and go to estate sales for the books. And then just the cars, what can I say? I mean, who doesn't love an old muscle car?
That's what I was going to ask. What's your favorite car that you've restored?
Oh, well, my rarest would probably be a 1965 AC Shelby Cobra that I built from the ground up with my dad. And
Wow.
my oldest is a 1917 Model T Spyglass Speedster that was actually racing like some of the races back in the day. So, yeah, some really fun stuff. I love it. It's a lot of work, and yeah, I still do it. I did it with nails too. So we're
Well,
uh,
that's awesome. That all sounds very, very great. I can't say how much I appreciate you taking the time. I really, truly appreciate all the activism you do and representing the United States in the Olympics. You really, truly are living an amazing life, Kim. And please keep up the good work. What's a parting takeaway that you want people to know before we go?
Well, I think just be involved. Be
Yeah.
aware, be involved. Really pay attention to all the things that, like I said, coming down the I say the pipelines. But at the same time, don't wait. Like get out there, take some individuals that may never have the opportunity, and introduce them to what we all take for granted. I know that we say that a lot, but we can't express how much and how life changing and what that really means for our sport. So I just really encourage everyone to really share that passion and share that knowledge, and really, I mean, it's something that's so important, but can't be stressed enough.
There you go. And join the groups. You're affiliated with NRA and CRPA, and there's a lot of great groups out there. Join the groups. Don't be stingy. Cut the checks that need to be cut so that these guys can continue to do the hard work that they do. So thank you for all that you do, and appreciate your time, Kim Rhode. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Great interview with Kim. Really enjoyed it. One of the things we wanted to do is she brought to our attention, of course, that there is an election for the board, for the NRA board. And we wanted to make some suggestions. In fact, we did some digging to find out who is going to be the best representative on the board who truly embraces the NRA 2.0 that we've been talking about. So we're going to put it up on the screen. We're going to put it up on the website. Folks, we want you to vote for. And it's a lot of people. So that's why we want to make sure that we have it up on the website and use our graphic. You have to be a life member, and it's not too late to become a life member of NRA, and you'll get your ballot in the mail. If you didn't get your ballot and you are a life member, then call NRA directly and make sure that you get it, because we really want to make sure that the board going forward for NRA supports our values and the future that we need out of the NRA. So here's the list. Kim Rhode, Al Hammond, Kathy Wright, Charles Hiltunen, Charles Brown, Howard Massengill, Jason Wilson, Jim Wallace, Jonathan Goldstein, Todd Ellis, David Mitten, Emery Jack Hagan III, Frank Tate, James Jim Shekels, James Fotis, Jim Porter, John Richardson, Knox Williams, Todd Vandermid, Mitzi McCorvey, Paul Babaz, Philip Gray, Regis Sinnen, Richard Fairburn, Richard Todd Figard, Richard Scott Emsley, and Teresa Inneker. Those are the folks you want to vote for. If we didn't mention them, if they're not up on our graphic, on our website, if it's not one of the people in this list, do not vote for them. We're really trying to get enough people to make sure that the vision of this NRA 2.0 is secure for the future. So Gun Owners Radio, for the first time, we're weighing in on that, and we want to make sure that you get the message on who to vote for. So check it out. Okay, next is, of course, our most popular segment, Stump My Nephew, with Sam, the gunman, my nephew. And this is sponsored by Seal One, seal1.com. If you haven't gotten your Seal One by now, now is the time. Order your Seal One. Just go to seal1.com. Cleaning your gun shouldn't take forever. And if you use Seal One, it won't. Seal One makes it faster and easier so you can spend more time on the range or just living your life. And now, what everyone's been waiting for, Seal One's finally made available an aerosol spray with Seal One. So that means even quicker, no hassle cleaning. All you got to do is spray, wipe, and you're good to go. I'm really, really excited about their new aerosol product. I think it's going to make a great product even better. But here's an insider tip. Seal One isn't just for firearms. Use it around the house on squeaky door hinges, sticky sliding doors, window tracks, tools, metal parts, anywhere that you need, that you would normally use, like, say, WD-40. You can now use Seal One in their aerosol spray. It cleans off rust and grime while keeping things running smooth. Try it today. Grab yours now at seal1.com. One and done with Seal One. Okay, without further ado, Sam the Gunman, how are you, my friend?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, I think we have a good question for you. I think this is going to be this will be good. I think you'll have a lot to say on this one, but first you got to get it right. So let's see if you get it right. This is from Stanley in Del Mar. He asks, who made the first red dot sight?
Who made the first red dot sight? Now, just a little plug here. I actually wrote a series of blog posts a few months ago about various types of firearm optics, including what people call red dot sights, or more properly, reflex sights. Those are up already. As I said, they've been up for a few months on the SDCGO blog and the blogs of the sister orgs. So it depends on exactly how strict about it you want to be. I would say that the first reflex sights were around in the World War II era, as they were used on fighter planes. But those were not man portable. You couldn't, you couldn't go and bolt it out of the cockpit of a P-40 or whatever and slap it on top of your Remington Model 8 or whatever it was you had.
I'll tell you, the answer provided, they were specifically asking about firearms.
Firearm reflex sights. Firearm reflex sights date to 1947. I think he's got me on the question itself, because I can't offhand remember the name of the company that manufactured reflex sights in the 40s, but they weren't super popular. The popularity of them in the modern era dates to Aimpoint in the 90s. But I can't remember the name of the company that was making them back in the late 40s. As far as I remember, it was 1947 that you could get reflex sights for a shotgun or a rifle. But I think he's sort of got me there.
Actually, I think you might have more information than he does. Mm-hmm. The answer he gives, this is Stanley from Del Mar. He says that the Swedish optics company Aimpoint, like you said, invented the first electronic red dot sight in 1975. The sight was designed by John Arne Ingmund Eggstrand.
Good job.
It was pretty good. I was kind of intimidated. He's an engineer from Helsingborg. How it worked, the sight combined an LED with a curved reflecting mirror.
Well, I can tell you how it works.
Go for it. How did it work?
By the way, Stanley from Del Mar, thank you very much for writing in. The way a reflex sight works, it's called reflex because it reflects the reticle, not REFLEX, REFLECTS, but the type of sight is spelled REFLEX. The way it works, you have an emitter, which in the case of an Aimpoint is an LED. Trijicon and Meprolight have made ones that were powered by ambient light. They used a fiber optic system, but you have an emitter, and that generates the reticle. It'll either be a dot or it'll be an LED with some type of mask over it to produce the crosshair or whatever you have, if you have like a hollow sun or something. And that bounces it off of a curved lens, and the lens is ground just so that it creates what's called a virtual reticle at infinity. And what that means is that the reticle optically does not appear to be reflecting off of the glass. Optically, it appears to be at an infinite distance. So that's why if you're looking through a so-called red dot sight, regardless of the color, if it is a reflex sight, then you don't focus on the glass itself. You focus beyond the glass at the target, or at, basically for the purposes of your eyes, or for the purposes of the way cameras work, basically at infinity, so that the dot becomes clear. or the reticle, whatever.
And the really, it was hunters and competitive shooters that really started using this thing, especially shotgun folks. It was my understanding. And then, you know, military started picking it up for, you know, closer, like, you know, close quarters combat, that sort of thing. And then boom, everything took off, you know, EOTech and Aimpoint and all these other companies came in, and it's pretty much, it's becoming the standard. It's really truly getting to the point where it's replacing iron sights, which is pretty amazing.
Well, now if you'll allow me for a moment, let me
fire away. Yeah.
Check on my computer here and open up a web browser tab and figure out, because gosh, it was covered on Forgotten Weapons a while ago, but I can picture it. I can picture this old 1940s reflex.
The 1947 one that you said?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, check it out. I mean, maybe, you know, like, so if it's forgotten, maybe that's why he missed it. But the old Stan from Delmar, he says it was Aimpoint in 75 that did it. But I was really impressed that it went on for a good decade or so. Shotgun guys were using it when they were hunting, and competitive folks were kind of the first ones that were doing it. And then all of a sudden it started making its way onto you know, AR pattern rifles for the military, and turned into a you know, quick reflexive tool, you know, for close quarters combat, you know, that sort of thing. But you know, then, you know, some of the reticles got so complicated, or not complicated, but so sophisticated that you can actually figure out how far someone is. You can range them, you know, you can make, you know, shots at 100 to 200, 300 yards with these red dots. It's really, really, truly amazing. But again, I'm just so impressed. I never really thought I'd see the day that a red dot has become standard on handguns. I just didn't anticipate that at all. I don't know. Are you a red dot person, Alicia?
I'm not. I'm still pretty much gun Amish. I will tell you, though.
You're gun Amish?
If at the moment. I will tell you, I've been putting some time into working on it. I'm trying. I've just spent so long so stuck on iron sights. I'm personally having a hard time making that transition to be more target focused. And it's something I haven't taken the time to put training into to fix. So therefore, I'm still iron sights. But
no,
I understand it. I teach it.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time implementing it myself, because those habits are there and they're hard.
Amazing results. I had a student, and I didn't tell her I was doing this, but I was teaching her, and I had two Glock 19s, two stock Glock 19s. One had a laser sight, or had a red dot. One had a iron sights. It wasn't a laser. It didn't project out. It was a red dot. And I just worked them both in, you know, without telling her, like, hey, we're going to do a test. I just kind of said, here, try this, and we'll, you know, see how it goes or whatever. And it's amazing. She was brand new to shooting, and the red dot was amazingly effective.
Yep.
Compared to the iron sights. I mean, she picked it right up. I mean, I know there's a big, you know, hey, you can't be a crutch. You still should learn the old-fashioned way. I get it, but it really, truly tends to make people better shooters. And especially if you're working with somebody whose primary...
Say, especially when they're brand new, they don't have those old habits. They can roll right into it really well.
Well, and you know, particularly this student, she wasn't looking to get into a new hobby. This is like purely a self-defense tool for her. You know, she wasn't going to be out on the range every weekend and get into it. She wanted to be able to defend herself. And, you know, a red dot really, truly helps somebody in that situation. Yeah. I mean, she's not going to put the practice in to be a marksman or whatever, you know, that iron sights takes, but she would be able to put the practice in to make sure that she was proficient and good with a red dot, and it gives her an edge. You know, somebody that's just not into guns, but they want to defend themselves. It's pretty amazing. Now they're selling guns with red dots mounted, and they look like they're part of the gun. It's, you know, it used to be, it was like a freaking TV hanging off your gun.
Well, it's because we were stuck with 2013 guns in our roster,
that's
right?
Yeah.
We didn't have the milling. Yep.
So, did you find it, Sam? What do you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here it is. Sorry, it's just pulled up on my phone, so you can't really see it. But this is the NIDAR Model 47.
Wow,
that was
from
the first,
1947, huh?
Of which I'm aware. Yeah, back from the 40s, the first firearm, like small arms, firearm reflex sight, of which I'm aware. There might be one earlier than that, but yeah, no, Aimpoint was not the first to the game. They just did it right to the point that their sights became ubiquitous. In fact, I've heard people using the name Aimpoint like Ziploc as a generic term for reflex style sights. Now, I will say I have
the guy who wrote the question in, provided the answer, and you're correcting him. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I've shot with red dot sighted handguns, and I've shot without. The handguns I carry don't have optics on them, but I probably my next carry gun, I don't know what it is yet, but whatever it'll be, I'll probably put a red dot on it. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it, unlike on long guns where if you're used to iron sights and you've been shooting iron sighted for years or decades, you can pick up one with a red dot and go, oh, bang, bang. Okay, yeah, I get it. It's easier. With pistols, because you have that draw stroke and dot acquisition or reticle acquisition as part of it, it's different. So I will say, if you're considering picking up a Holosun or a Trijicon, or I think Primary Arms makes them, a few other companies make them, Crimson Trace, whatever, and running that on your carry gun, you can't just put that on and be good to go. There's a learning curve. You do have to practice with the optic a little bit. It's different from shooting with iron sights, but if you are interested in doing that, then yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to. It does give you improved situational awareness because you can more easily shoot with both eyes open and focus on the target with both eyes instead of trying to focus on your sights.
There you go. And you, of course, wrote blogs on articles on red dots in the past. Check those out. You have any new articles coming up?
Yeah, the most recent one that went up, I already alluded to last time I was on here. That's about Remington Ammunition, what happened to the company after Remington was split off from, after Freedom Group was split up in 2020.
What happened to Big Green?
Yeah, what the heck happened to Big Green Part 2 is the name of that blog post. My next one coming up will be about executive orders.
Perfect. All right, let's move on to Shoot Straight. This is the blah, 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 blah. Boy, we cannot talk today. All three of us are gargling our words here. No bull, just straight shooting on today's hottest gun and political topics. It's time for Straight Shooter segment. Okay, the Straight Shooter segment. We've got a couple things we want to talk about today. First off is, this is pretty interesting. There was an article that came out, and it came out in a bunch of different sources. I think AP covered it, and, quarterbacked it out to a bunch of people. But this one comes from American Military Vets. Top Democrat slammed for using DNC position to raise money for personal PAC. David Hogg, who was recently appointed as the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, is being accused by members of his own party of demonstrating, quote, a stunning lack of judgment by using his position with the DNC to request donations from Democrat supporters for his personal political action committee, his personal PAC. The New York Post reported that within the first couple of weeks of serving as vice chairman of the DNC, Hogg has already used DNC contact lists to solicit donations to his Leaders We Deserve PAC. According to Federal Election Commission records obtained through the outlet, Hogg receives over $100,000 in compensation from the PAC each year and has already been paid $175,000 through the PAC. So he works for the PAC, and that's his salary. Okay, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago. David Hogg, he's an anti-gun activist. He's an extremist when it comes to Democrat policies. I mean, not only has there not been a Democrat policy in the last, 4 years or so that he hasn't embraced, but he doesn't just embrace, he goes overboard. Like, he is an absolute extremist when it comes to left of center policies, but particularly guns. He's particularly anti-gun. That's his thing. He was elected to the DNC's leadership, the Democratic National Committee. And at the time, when I talked about this a couple weeks ago, I said, guys, it's never good when somebody we disagree with, especially someone who's so vehemently against the Second Amendment, it's never good when they get a position, when they get a bigger megaphone. But I think this kid's going to screw up, and that's exactly what he did. It's complicated. There's a particular job and a lot of rules you have to follow. And he's put himself in a situation at a very young age.
His brain's not done growing yet.
Yeah. And I don't think the rest of them's done growing yet either, man. This kid's like a $110 or whatever, soaking wet. He's kind of, anyway. So he's now got he's got a role, a very specific defined role with the Democratic National Committee, where he has to follow some very specific rules. He's given himself a role with leading this PAC that has a less defined role, but an even more defined set of rules that he has to follow. You know, PACs, I know a little something about PACs. You have to follow these rules. They're not just suggestions. And these rules aren't just like, well, gee golly, we sure hope you do the right thing. No, if you run afoul of these rules, you could go to jail. So he gets himself elected to the DNC and then takes their list, according to this article, and solicits these donors, the DNC's donors, solicits them for donations to his PAC that he makes a living off of. Now, if you're not aware, a list, a list of donors, that's an asset. It's not the phone book. The phone book, is or some kind of list on the internet or whatever. That's public. Anybody can see that. A list that you've created of donors, that database, that is an asset. That is something that you can be protective of. Even though some donor might be on 57 lists, doesn't matter. That list that you have, that's an asset. So he took an asset of the Democratic National Committee and used it to enrich another organization, his organization, that, oh, by the way, he gets paid from. So I run a PAC. If I joined, let's say, the Republican Central Committee, if I got elected on the Republican Central Committee, and I took their list, their database, and said, hey, join San Diego County gun owners, donate to San Diego County gun owners, within a week of getting elected, by the way. If I did that, there'd be some issues. I'd be worried about being investigated. I'd be worried about not just fines, but maybe even jail time. That's a serious violation. And this kid does this within weeks of joining. He doesn't know what he's doing. His ego, his lack of experience are causing him to do bad things. I think that, interestingly enough, there was a lot of criticism from Democrats and in fact, here was a quote, David Hogg, talk about living up to your name, a trough of DNC dollars, all for him, and he doesn't seem to give an oink. This was the New York Post quoted a top Democrat. I don't know if they actually named him, but he was
They don't. I read through it.
Okay, it was a top Democrat who says this about him. So they're mocking him, And like I said, there's a very specific role, and he's in this role, and he's not fulfilling it. Well, that means the people that the DNC needs to get elected, they're not getting the benefit of somebody who's competent and making good decisions in that role, which means that they're suffering across the board.
Another senior Democratic Party official told the New York Post, it's especially important for all Democratic national officials to focus on raising support for the party and not using their position to raise money for themselves or their personal political PACs. It's a stunning lack of judgment that is concerning many people.
Yes.
They're being honest about it.
They are. I
that
think
says a lot that they're being honest.
It does. It says they really don't like this guy.
Yeah.
And otherwise they'd cover for him and gee golly
be silent.
gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
And this is bad
Yep.
for them. But I don't know. I kind of hope he stays there and continues to screw up and continues to not do the right thing and continues to focus on himself rather than the job that he's supposed to do.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Sam, what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
It's kind of funny how quickly that happened. Number
right.
one, and number two, it sounds like his. I guess it isn't exactly a personal PAC, but the PAC that he co-founded and of which he is, what is he, the chair or co-chair?
Of the PAC?
Yeah. Sounds
I don't know
like
what
he draws a pretty darn good paycheck from that.
It says vice chairman.
Which is fine. I mean, if he's paying himself from the PAC, I work for a PAC. You know, I get it. I understand that. He's in a national PAC. He's getting paid more than I am. You know, he can make the argument that it's a national PAC or whatever. I get it. I'm not worried about the guy making a living. You know, if people value the work that he does and they decide, hey, we're going to support this PAC that, you know, because of the work that he does, great. You know, I'd be a hypocrite to say otherwise. But, you know, stealing a list from the Democratic National Committee in order to fund that was clearly a conflict of interest. And I'm not an attorney. I don't know all the details, but what's being reported, I think, is potentially a criminal act. And they could really hammer him on this if they chose to.
I think that's one example of when age, in this case, you know, someone who's young, by no means does that always mean that they're not going to be suitable for the job. But I think this is one example where his lack of life experience, his lack of understanding the importance of following rules and laws and not just doing what you think in your head sounds like a good idea is really hurting him.
And his ego.
If I may,
He's got he's enormously egotistical. If you look at his tweets or whatever, you know, you know, it's easy to call him a snot-nosed little brat, but he is an adult, and really what it boils down to is he's got this enormous ego that comes from I don't know where. Comes from nothing. He's accomplished exactly nothing. Right. You know, so I don't know what he thinks, you know, he's done in life, but he's got this enormous ego about it.
If I'm not mistaken, some types of campaign finance violations are felony offenses under federal law. So I don't think this qualifies, but I'm not a lawyer either, and I don't even pretend to begin to understand the intricacies of campaign finance law. But it would be kind of a funny irony if he were convicted of felony campaign finance violations and therefore not allowed to own firearms.
Couldn't exercise the right he's fighting against. Yeah, I think everybody's heard of Dinesh D'Souza, and he actually did jail time for not exactly this, but something very similar. It was a campaign law. Campaign finance law that he was found guilty of and did jail time for it. That's rare, but it happens. You can absolutely it is a felony. Could be what they're describing could possibly be a felony. So I don't know what's going to happen, but clearly he's pissed off some of the Democrats in his leadership position. So it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Screw you, Hog. All right. Next, Christy Bruce Lane endorsed by Sheriff Bianco. Okay, we talked about Sheriff Bianco earlier in the show. The guy's a powerhouse. He's an amazing sheriff out of Riverside County. He's very popular. His constituents absolutely love him. I'm a fan. Embarrassingly, a big fan of his, but I'm not embarrassed. I'm actually very proud. He's a really great guy. He's running for governor. And Christy Bruce Lane is somebody that we've endorsed in the past. She's running for state senate in the 40th district, and she is absolutely as pro Second Amendment as they come. And so she got Chad Bianco's endorsement, which is huge. So congratulations to Christy Bruce Lane on your endorsement from Sheriff Chad Bianco. Good luck to both of you in your campaign. I hope that we can do everything we can to help you out. And thank you so much for supporting the Second Amendment, Christy Bruce Lane and Sheriff Chad Bianco. Okay, we have an extremely important question, and this is not the first time this question has come up. And this time, a question that we, of course, posed right here in this room, right here on this show, comes up again on another show. And
very serious.
It is. And in a way, I got to tell you, this question is starting to follow and maybe haunt Adam Kraut from the Second Amendment Foundation. This time it was asked by Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. And let's go ahead and let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
The last question I have before we wrap up is I know that Michael Schwartz said between him and John Petrolino that I'm the better looking one. But
that was a trick question.
Neither Petrolino or Michael Schwartz are here, so you can give us the real answer.
I'm going to demur on that one. I'm not getting caught in this crossfire.
Right.
So the original question was, between myself and John Petrolino, who's better looking? And the right answer is Charlie Cook. And Adam, Second Amendment Foundation, you can run, but you cannot hide from this question. It's coming for you. So thank you, Charlie Cook. And, of course, thank you, Adam. You guys are wonderful. I wanted to make sure everybody saw that. I think that's it. Anything else? What do you got? Anything else that you want to add to our beautiful show? That was a big show. It was a lot of information.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
What do you think, Alicia? Anything?
Oh, gosh.
How do people, if they want to train with you, how do people train with you?
So if they want to, I mean, there's a couple different ways. One
for
is
it.
you can book online through discountgunmart.com. Just go to training. There's a tab there. You just select a private lesson, and you get to choose me. You get to pick who you want to work with if you choose me.
There you go. Men and women, young
That's
and
it.
old, advanced or beginner.
A little bit of everybody. Yeah,
Good,
absolutely.
good.
Or you can just email me directly. My first name, Alicia, ALISHA, letter C for my last name, at discountgunmart.com, and set it up through email with me.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Sam, you got anything else? Do you want to add? Anything you want to make sure people know?
No, I
you on
can't
the
put
spot.
anything better than you can. So
All right, fantastic. Sam, thank you so much. You got the question right again. Actually, I think you got it like more than right. It's like, I think that you got
can I
it
get
so
extra
right.
credit points on that
I was
one?
going to say,
Yeah.
you took one of the ones that you got wrong no longer exists. So you didn't just get a +1 on this, you get a +2. So it negates one of the ones that you got wrong, which I don't even remember last time you got one wrong. So, all right, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening. Truly appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Listen to us every week. Check us out online. Go to our website and join our email list and get involved. Together, we will win. GunOwnersRadio.com.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings, so I like to say it's a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot process, much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.